This article was written over 60 years ago. I have to repeat that because you need to understand that this was before all the social and policy changes of the 60s. These people that this writer was talking about.
Why do you keep bringing up all the social and policy changes of the 60s then? Why do you keep bringing that up? Again, because you're mixing and matching what you're talking about, but we're going to continue on.
They came over in the 1950s and earlier than that. And this was the attitude they brought with them. This is why they're
The article clearly states that they didn't come here with that attitude. It talks about how a lot of that attitude came about because of how people were being treated by Black people in America. And the article points out that that is no justification for the way they are behaving. But we're going to keep it going.
to break their necks and jump out a window to tell everyone that they're Jamaican or Trinidadian or Barbadian or African or whatever. They understand the rules of racism, and they recognize full well that the reason that white power let them into the U.S. wasn't because it liked them. They did it because white power could weaponize immigration against us to maintain a racial pecking order, and as far as they were concerned,
Not why white people let Indians into the country. In fact, they let them into the country because the first major movement of West Indians coming into America, where the United States of America was bringing them in themselves, was because of how skilled they were. How a lot of them worked on the Panama Canal. So what are you talking about? It wasn't to undermine Black people who were already here. That's a lie, but we're going to keep it going.
they'll play along with the divide and conquer strategy, that is, if they can get a few butter biscuit crumbs out of it. But you notice that not one of these self-described successful and ambitious West Indians ever lifts a finger to rehabilitate their home countries. Not even one.
I'm pretty sure, again, it said in the article that a bunch of them are planning to move back to their home country. One of them is only studying in America just so he can get a better education and then go back and work for the government in his own country. What are you talking about? And why do you keep leaving global white supremacy out of the equation of why some countries are not where they're supposed to be? Because if people point out how the Black community ain't where it's supposed to be, you're gonna wake up talking white supremacy, you're gonna go to bed talking white supremacy. You're gonna talk white supremacy in the morning, you're gonna talk white supremacy in the night. And you'll refuse to hear anything, any other criticisms about how, well, yeah, racism might be real, but I can do a little bit better. You won't hear it. But again, you're a goofball, you're a lame, that's what you do, but we're gonna continue on. Hopefully you're almost done, because I don't wanna listen to you anymore.
Candace Owens and others can try to play the game of exalting their home countries, but just because these good white folks don't sit there and laugh in their faces doesn't mean that they're fooled. The dominant society fully recognizes these tethers for what they are: useful idiots, tools for white supremacy, meant to be used and then broken. How does the tether live with the lie that they have become, though? Well, they do it by never looking at it. No Black American has ever done anything to them, and yet they want to be the first to attack us.
Didn't you just read the article about the name calling and the guys also stating that that's no justification, which is true. There's no justification because Black people we roast. It's, it wasn't malicious, but they felt slighted and then they wanted to, get their lick back, but they was kind of going a little too far. And they was going overboard with it. But this whole, again, this lie, this notion that this just came out of nowhere, that's something you're saying. That's not what the article said, but we're gonna keep it going.
Why? Because above all, we remind them that they can never be white, which is what they really want. When we talk about opportunity and success, to the tether, these words mean the opportunity to finally be accepted as white. And success means that they successfully shed being Black, and now they get to be bona fide Europeans. It's like the racial equivalent of Pinocchio. The problem for the people of the West Indies and for the Africans is that they never came to terms with why it is that their countries and the places that they eventually were dragged to became such easy prey for their oppressors. Why is it that these very individuals who love to brag about their alleged education and how in their countries, why everyone in the government's black, we know what it means to grow up and see that there's a black attorney general, black prime minister, black this, black that. How come all of these excellent, extraordinary minds never translated into these countries becoming the Singapore of the Caribbean? How come they can never get to that point? Spoiler, it wasn't because of black Americans. Though the way that these guys obsess over trashing us, you would think that
Then who was it then? Who, if they got all this good stuff and they so smart, so yeah, why didn't they become the Singapore of the Caribbean? Why didn't that happen? You see how disgusting these people are? He completely omitted racism and white supremacy. Completely omitted it. Lying through omission. Wouldn't even say lying, like you're deceiving through omission. You left that completely out. But we're gonna keep it going, because that's what you do.
we were the ones who colonized Africa and dragged these people in chains to the Caribbean. Isn't it amazing? These people, they think to themselves that they're better than foundational black Americans, even though they went through the exact same enslavement process, because apparently their slave ship made it to port first, so that makes them better. This is precisely the kind of infighting that they've practiced in their home countries for untold centuries, and now they've brought that same chaos here. There were a lot of black people who were overly optimistic, even naive, thinking to themselves that, hey, we've got that revolutionary spirit, it's just a matter of everybody else feeling comfortable enough to say it. It didn't occur to black folks for the longest time that maybe the reason that these other folks are not and have never been interested in overthrowing white supremacy is because they have always wanted to be part of it. When
Are you talking about? They have their own countries because they didn't want to be a part of white supremacy. And their countries don't have the same colors of their oppressor. It's black people who, it's a black man who joined with a white woman who purposely created a Juneteenth flag and made sure it was red, white, and blue, the colors of their oppressor. It's you guys who are waving the American flag, the colors of your oppressor. It's you guys who don't really want to fight white supremacy. It's you guys who basically allow a mulatto aristocracy to rule over you, who never wanted to be black and wanted to be accepted in the white community and destroy any attempts of black people having an actual ethnic culture in America. That's you. It's you. But we're gonna keep it going. Talking about fighting and revolutionary spirit. Who gave people more of a revolutionary spirit than Marcus Garvey? Who gave black people more of a revolutionary spirit than Tommy Ture? Nobody.
somebody has all of this deep contempt for you when you did absolutely nothing to them except for help them, when you have somebody who talks about you like a dog and regards you the exact same way that the white supremacists do,
Where is the help? Again, we're talking about pre-1960s. Where was all this help? Where did they make this way?
then what is your response to that kind of anti-black hostility to be? Well, I'll tell you what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't decide that you're going to just close your eyes to the truth and hope to yourself that maybe you can shame the tethers into showing respect for you and for themselves. Anti-black racism is based on lying images and false narratives from the white media. But for those trying to become white adjacent, they know that the extent to which the dominant society will throw them a few bones isn't based on how well they adhere to reality, but rather how slavishly they adhere to the narrative. This article points out that these tethers infiltrating our organizations and our groups and trying to find ways to destroy us from within, this isn't something that only came up in the last few years with
Where did they say that they tried to destroy, infiltrate, and destroy the within? I never saw them saying they infiltrated anything or tried to destroy within anything. Again, the only reason the civil rights movement succeeded is because, in large part, because a lot of the people who helped it succeed were black immigrants. Since Baker, since Baker Motley, the civil rights queen, more civil rights victories than anybody else in America. Period. Nobody in America got more civil rights victories than she does. Again, the only reason the civil rights movement got off the ground and succeeded was because of Harry Belafonte. Mainly because of Harry Belafonte. Cindy Portier, too. What are we talking about here? Infiltrating and destroying. Kwame Ture started the Black Power. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting this at all. You just making stuff up. Again, back to the demagoguery of blaming black immigrants for everything bad and saying, oh, they trying to sabotage us. They here to infiltrate. They here to hurt us. Never once did he actually name anything that was done to hurt black people, but I can name plenty that was done to benefit black. But we gonna keep it going.
This isn't even something that only came up since the 1960s. They've been doing it before. That's why I place special emphasis on how the writer of the article pointed out that there was this young man in Greenwich Village, 26 years old, and talking about black people as if he had been raised by the Klan. As the article pointed out, before there was a civil rights division in the DOJ, you had tethers like him infiltrating these civil rights groups. A pathetic worm who fled from his home country because he was too incompetent and too cowardly to build it up. And then he comes to the United States and he has the nerve to actually call foundational black Americans animals. No, we're not animals, though in his case he would qualify because he's certainly a snake. That's why he slithers on his belly for everything he wants. People like him, they hate foundational black Americans, but they won't hesitate to use our organizations to boost their own profile and to use us as a springboard to elevate themselves. You see, that's what they were doing back home, too. That's the reason why they
You got that wrong. I'll let you go on that whole spiel. But again, according to the article, he was somebody in his home country and he planned to go back to his home country. Yeah, he was bad. He shouldn't have called black people animals, but that was I'm not justifying it, but that was a prevailing attitude about biracials and black people in the North of black Southerners who were moving into the cities. That's where we get the phrase, all skin folk ain't your kinfolk, because people hated black Southerners. A lot of them did. And they did see them as animals and bad people and all this other stuff like that. But ain't no but. What he said was totally unacceptable. But again, we're going to keep it going.
didn't build home up because they sit there and exploit and take advantage of their own countrymen as well. That's the way that they do things. Countrymen as well. That's the way that they do things. This article is just another data point. It is another piece of documentation showing that the problem of tetherism predates the 1960s. That's part of the reason why it's so deeply ingrained into the culture of these places. And this is the reason why Pan-Africanism could never work. It was damned to fail from the very beginning because it was torn apart by its own internal contradictions.
There's no internal contradictions in Pan-Africanism. And Pan-Africanism has been working since the beginning and it's working now. The whole Black American identity is based on Pan-Africanism. Race consciousness. All Virtually all our victories, especially in the 20th century, no, all our victories are based in Pan-Africanism, especially the ones from the 20th century to now. There ain't no civil rights movement without Pan-Africanism. There's no Black Power era without Pan-Africanism. There's not even the Negro League, the Negro League that everybody talks about when they say Negro League, that doesn't exist without Pan-Africanism. The Harlem Renaissance doesn't exist without Pan-Africanism. I don't even think the Divine Nine exists without Pan-Africanism. And I mean like real Pan-Africanism, as in Black people from different parts of the planet working together to get this thing established. Don't You just made that up. Like you try to sound smart to my internal contradictions. Name the internal contradictions of Pan-Africanism. I'll wait. Let's play and see if he does that. Let's see if he attempts to do that. Because he can't.
Pan-Africanism's a nice fantasy, but you can't live in a dream world. How in God's name are you going to have
And whoa, time out. I just thought about something. If Pan-Africanism was a fantasy, why were you promoting it for like the last 20 years? Doesn't that make you dumb? That it took you like 20 years to figure out that this was a fantasy and it didn't work? How stupid are you? Especially when all the hallmarks about why it wouldn't work, according to you, were already in existence 60 years ago, 100 years ago. Because, like I said, I think I said in the beginning of this video, or part one, because again, I broke this up into two parts, that Pan African, or part three, whatever part this is, that I got this article confused and I thought this was from the 1920s because stuff like this was going on in the 1920s. How are you Professor Black Truth and you didn't know that? But we gonna keep it going.
Pan-African anything or unity with people who call you animals, individuals who go out of their way to demonize you and try to degrade you, individuals who will shamelessly, ruthlessly try to take advantage of you, slithering their way into your organizations so that they can try to use you to benefit themselves, who will gladly sell you out to your historical enemies in a heartbeat, and then they'll sit there the whole time saying that your enemies were the good guys all along. How the hell are you going to have unity with that? But that's exactly what black people tried to do for the better part of a century. And the
Sorry, phone call, but we gonna keep it going.
good guys all along. How the hell are you going to have unity with that? But that's exactly what black people tried to do for the better part of a century. And the lies and the talking points and the feeble rationalizations that these tethers use.
You just said they've been doing this for the better part of a century. So why were you basically promoting Pan-Africanism for like a quarter century, fifth of a century? You didn't realize what was going on 60, 80 years before that? And you supposed to be smart? We supposed to follow you? You're dumb. You're dumb. You expose yourself as being dumb. You are up here saying Pan-Africanism is a fantasy and it doesn't work, and it's been that way for like the better almost a century. But you were on the internet for like what, 20 years now promoting Pan-Africanism. So how stupid are you? Why should people listen to somebody who got misled for like 20 years based on something that he should have been able to see 60 years ago didn't work, 80 years ago didn't work? And he claims out his own mouth never worked. So what were you promoting Pan-Africanism for? Why would you join an ideology, quote unquote ideology, that's older than you, that you can see no victories in, and then turn around and promote it for like 2 decades? Sound like a grift to me, or just sound like you're stupid to me, but we gonna keep it going.
You can see they haven't updated their playbook in decades, but then again, they don't have to. White power is the same old, same old. Now, this article is from the November 1963 issue of Negro Digest. It's available to read for free on Google Books. The link's going to be in the description. This goes to show that, as Dr. John Henrik Clarke said, all history is a current event. Everything that has ever happened continues to happen. And I would add to that,
Why are you quoting John Henry Clarke? And he is correct. Because again, this is nothing new, but it's new to you because you're stupid. You were supposed to be this super smart professor, but you didn't know this. But we're gonna keep it going. I'm gonna let you finish up.
that if you want to break these cycles, you better start doing something different than what you've done in the past. Now, facing up to an unpleasant reality is unpleasant in the near term, but the truth of the matter is you'll adjust to it. But if you decide that you just can't let it go, then the only thing you're going to be is tethered to a lie. Good day.
That was corny. And it's not a lie. Because again, like I said, I'm gonna end this video because there's nothing else that I need to say. This guy's a goofball. Anytime somebody tells you Pan-Africanism is dead, it doesn't work, and that person was promoting Pan-Africanism, ask them. Well, and it has no victories, ask them. So you was out here promoting something for like 20 years, 10 years, 15 years that didn't have any victories, that's older than your parents? How stupid are you? Even the communists have victories. Even the anarchists have victories. But you were promoting something that had no victories. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you for watching to the end. Make sure you like this video, share this video. Make sure you comment on this video. I really want to see some comments on this video. Give this video some hype points. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Donate to me if you can for the love of the game, or if you want me to make something specific for you, or if you have any questions too, because people be asking me questions. You can give me $1 and I'll answer that question for you in a short. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video here. Again, thank you for staying to the end. All the links will be in the description box below and the pinned comment. Do yourself a favor, subscribe to everything I got going on. And on that note, family, peace.